was extremely shocking and horrifying to see these 11 men coming out of jail on the 15th of August 22, just when the Prime Minister was also talking to the nation from the Red Fort and talking about women's safety and women's honor. And just juxtaposed with that was the sight of these 11 people coming out and being garlanded, treated like heroes, and being called Sanskari Brahmins. It was just very disgusting.
When our government chooses our 75th year of independence to orchestrate a performance of hate by releasing rapists from a pogrom against Muslims and a Muslim woman, releasing murderers and rapists of this pogrom as part of the 75th Independence Day celebration, then it means that we have to do something as citizens if we want to keep our democracy and our systems of justice. And that's the reason why when Subhashini Ali reached out to me through her lawyer to sign a petition that she had drafted, I readily agreed.
I had gone to Gujarat as part of a delegation of the All India Democratic Women's Association in 2002. And we had met Bilkis 2 days after this horrible attack on her occurred. So we met her in the riot victims camp in Godhra. And it was just such a sad experience. She was very, weak and 4 months pregnant. And you can imagine the state that she was in, but she had a very quiet determination about her. We recorded her whole, um, account of what had transpired, and she seemed to be conveying to us that she was going to fight. And fortunately, her husband was extremely supportive, and he had also joined her in the camp by then. And after that, of course, we were all following her fight for justice, in which the Gujarat government was completely aiding and abetting and protecting the accused when actually they're supposed to have been fighting the case on behalf of the victim, but they were not doing that. And finally, after many interventions, the case was transferred to the CBI court in Maharashtra, and she got a judgment convicting these 11 people. I think four had died in the course of the trial. So 11 of them were convicted by this CBI court in Maharashtra for life. And that was judgment was confirmed by the High Court of Maharashtra in, I think, 2017. So after a very long fight, some ray of hope appeared in 2008, and all of us thought that at least in one of the thousands of cases of atrocities and violence and rape and murder and brutality that occurred during the 2002 pogrom, at least one has seen some justice being accessed by the victim. And so,
I've been a journalist for almost 30 years, and what motivated me to become a journalist was the Babri Mosque was destroyed while I was a student in second year college. And that was my first exposure to the fact that we were being engulfed by a certain kind of politics of hate that I was encountering for the first time. And it made me feel that the only reason I wasn't a part of those bloodthirsty mobs or people who supported the destruction of the mosque in Ayodhya was because I was studying history and I was looking at facts. And so I said that I would like to continue this journey with my life. My life's purpose then became the politics was very personal, and it felt like the reason I became a journalist was to be able to share with other people facts that could hopefully impress upon them the truth and which would hopefully keep the diversity in our country. And so, obviously, as we went from one toxic kind of politics into a darker abyss, I wrote The Anatomy of Hate, which is a book that chronicles the lives of three fanatics who were part of the bloodthirsty mobs of Gujarat 2002. One of them was like a outlier to this mob. He was an almost fanatic, and he became a left liberal atheist because he started to work with riot victims and he started to see a very different reality from the fiction that the right wing trots out. And part of that big transformation that happened was his meeting with Bilkis. So actually, in a way, my entire career is dictated by this. So yes, it is very important to me.
Bilkis said that when she was told about their release, she said, "Is justice dead?" And that was so terribly such a jolt, that what are we doing? If justice is dying, what are we doing? So we started thinking about what we could do, and we're lucky that people like Kapil Sibal and Aparna Bhatt and many other senior lawyers were also thinking of moving a writ petition challenging this remission in the Supreme Court. They asked me if I would be a petitioner, and of course I agreed. And Revati Laul and Ruprekha Verma also joined me in that, and our petition was filed and it was accepted. After that, others also filed petitions, and then, of course, Bilkis herself approached the court through her lawyer, Shobha Gupta, and that was what really strengthened the case. And that's how it happened. In the last 10 years, hardly any judgment has come in which the government has been so strongly opposed, or the government's stand has been so dramatically challenged and defeated. This is the first of its kind in the last 10 years. So it has created a lot of enthusiasm among people.
I feel it is a fantastic judgment because it also lays out legal precedents that cannot be overlooked the next time even these convicts or anybody else chooses to appeal and ask for remission.
The judges have shown their commitment to the concept of justice. And they have said that they have had to overturn an earlier Supreme Court ruling given in 2021, when the Gujarat government and one of the accused, Radhe Shyam, uh, went to them, went to the Supreme Court and uh, asked for the remission petition to be heard in Gujarat for permission. So the court gave that permission and also said it could be heard under the 1992 rules, because the rules had been changed in 2014. According to the new rules, cases of capital crimes cannot be given remission. They're not entitled to remission. But in 1992, they were. So just see the way in which it was all done.
Supposing these convicts were to go to the Supreme Court or to the High Court of Bombay in Maharashtra, where they were convicted and appeal for a remittance of their sentence, then what the judges in the Supreme Court in their verdict have said that this cannot be granted unless the judge who passed the conviction, his opinion is taken.
Decision of the Supreme Court of 21 was actually overturned in the present judgment. And why was that done? It's very interesting. The judges held that that decision had been held using fraudulent means. Radhe Shyam and the state of Gujarat had lied to the Supreme Court. They had not told them that they had already gone once to the High Court of Gujarat. The High Court of Gujarat had said, no, you have to go to Maharashtra. They had gone to Maharashtra. The CBI court, the investigative officer had both turned down their request for remission. And then they came back to the Supreme Court but withheld this very important information. And this was done not only by Radhe Shyam, but also by the government of Gujarat. And on that basis, on the basis of this fraudulent plea, the judges in 2021 gave them the permission to approach the Gujarat High Court. So the judges in their judgment on the 8th said, because this judgment or this ruling was given on the basis of a fraud, so we cannot uphold it. And they said that it is now rendered null and void because of that fraud. And we are sending those people back to jail. They have to be arrested and sent back to jail within 15 days.
So it prevents misuse of the law by politicians. And that is the reason why it is a very, very important legal precedent for us as a country and for citizens. It means that if the executive, if any government chooses to trash the law and say, we don't care what a court has decided, we are going to do this, then it's going to be very hard for them to pull that off given the legal precedents set. by these judges.
Gujarat government knowingly went beyond its jurisdiction and uh, went to the Gujarat High Court for getting its uh, request for appeal uh, accepted, knowing full well that the same court had refused to do it earlier. They had not filed a review petition, knowing full well that Maharashtra had said no, knowing full well that they had withheld these facts from the Supreme Court. But they went ahead and, in a great hurry, they um, gave them remission and they came out of jail on the 15th of August. So there are many lessons to be learned from this, and people should be learning these lessons. They should see how a Supreme Court has said that the Gujarat High Court, government and the central government supporting it both committed a fraud. They withheld important information from the Supreme Court in order to get a favorable decision. And then the way in which they proceeded to grant the remission, it was also faulty. The central government gave them the permission, so it was also complicit. All these things have been said in that judgment. So people should understand what kind of a government there is, both at the center and in BJP ruled states. These are governments that are prepared to go to any extent to safeguard the interests of those they consider their own people, in spite of the fact that they may have murdered people, they may have gang raped women, they may have committed any kind of a heinous crime, but they will be given impunity by the BJP government. Now, this is a very shocking thing, and every Indian should be very, very concerned about this state of affairs, and they must oppose it. Many people have said to me after the judgment came, oh, we shouldn't have kept quiet. We were complacent at that time. Yes, now don't keep quiet anymore. Please shed your complacence. Everybody has to stand up and fight. Fight for their rights, fight for the constitution, fight for justice, and fight against this government that is determined to deny justice to victims, that is determined to protect criminals of the worst kind as long as they belong to their organization or are their supporters. I think that any normal person seeing the kind of crime that was committed and also seeing the kind of suffering that the victim had undergone, being shocked by their release on the 15th of August, would have thought that any court, any judge would stand up for Bilkis and would quash this remission order. That is what we thought, and we were hopeful. There were times in the course of the fight in the court when one became a bit not hopeless, but at least less hopeful, because the Gujarat government and the central government used everything in their power to defend the criminals, everything in their power to save their remission. They were the top uh, official judicial, uh, you know, people of the state over there, attorney general, solicitor general, and so on and so forth. And also the top lawyers of the Supreme Court were all there also. And they were using every trick in the book to try and delay things, to try and deviate from the course, to try and shift the attention somewhere else, and so on and so forth. But I must say that the bench, earlier and later on, when after Justice Joseph retired, was quite vigilant and was very firm in telling them exactly what they should do. And then finally, in October, all the hearings were over and the judgment was held in abeyance. And then on the 8th, the judgment was heard by the whole nation and I think welcomed by the whole nation.
The reason we filed the petition is because we have faith in the law. But personally, I always am someone who likes to believe the worst and I mean expect the worst, but hope for the best. And so I didn't know what to expect. I just did what I wanted to do and what I felt was right. I was really, really pleasantly surprised when this happened.
Bilkis Bano is a great example because she has fought with great courage in the face of odds that we can't even imagine. First of all, to have gone through what she went through at the hands of those men, to have been pregnant at the time, to have had to move house 20 times, to have been in fear of her life, and to have continued fighting. That's an amazing example for all of us. And I always tell everybody I meet that if she could fight, there's no reason for us to keep quiet. There's no reason for you to keep quiet. All of us, all of you have to join this fight for justice.
It would have taken a lot of courage for me to not act. It was just the more natural thing for me to do was to do what anyone in my position, given a chance to be part of this petition, would do, which is to say yes.
It's very heartening that so much solidarity was expressed for Bilkis. So many organizations, so many people came forward with help and legal help also. So that's also a great example.
For women and for citizens of this country, for everyone, it was an important day. It was a victory for justice. It was a victory for the rule of law.
But at the same time, when I think about her struggle and what happened all these years, I can't help wondering about all these young women who are fighting perpetrators belonging to the BJP, whether it is the wrestlers, whether it is the Unnao victim, whether it is this young woman student of BHU, whether it is Ankita's family in Uttarakhand, and so many others. I wonder what they are getting out of this struggle. Are they seeing that there is hope for victory? Or are they thinking, will we be able to fight that long? How will we fight that long? How can we fight in court after court after court? Will we find people to help us go right up to the Supreme Court? Can we keep fighting for 10 years, 15 years, and 20 years against these powerful governments? These are very, very difficult questions that all these women are facing. And I really wonder what kind of answers they're coming up with. We can only, all of us together, assure them that there are many people, many organizations, many lawyers who are willing to help. Please don't feel alone. Please try to contact us. Please try to get in touch with people who are fighting these cases and these battles. And we'll all try and fight together. So that is what I would like the message to be going out to all those who are fighting for justice, especially in BJP ruled states, against perpetrators who are very much connected to the BJP and who are receiving protection from the BJP and its governments.
Given the fact that the Gujarat government, the court has held them responsible for fraud, for keeping facts from the court, and for botching up the case, it's difficult to imagine that they would willfully submit themselves to castigate themselves.
Even the opposition parties are not prepared to really fight, but there's a lot of India outside of Gujarat, and that will fight. Of course, it will fight. We will be monitoring what happens to Bilkis, we'll be monitoring what happens to this case, and we'll also try and see if there is any legal remedy to deal with people that the Supreme Court has held as being complicit with criminals.
We, the people, can demand questions of the government we elect. So it isn't up to a government that has turned rogue or criminal to castigate itself. It is up to us to be able to perform our roles as active citizens and not leave it up to the government to do everything. We have got to take the reins of power, which actually belongs with the people. We've got to realize it's up to us, not up to them, to hold the law, to keep the law, and to keep our faith.
But at the same time, I would also like a message to go out to everybody that it's time that everybody stood up and took a stand. We must. We cannot allow this to continue. We cannot allow these governments, which are expressing no remorse, no regret, even after being indicted by the Supreme Court of India, not a word of regret have they expressed. We have to know what they are, what their real character is. And at the same time, I would like to say we have to also oppose politics of identity, which creates so much hatred between groups that people belonging to one group are ready to condone, not only condone, but celebrate those from their group who commit rape, commit murder against people of the other group. We have to give up this kind of identity politics that turns us into these kind of vicious human beings.